Students, you are now in your prep time. Your prep time has ended. With the magazine of 15 rounds making the issue one weapon. Is the line ready? The line is ready. Shooters firing 5 rounds in a time limit of 60 seconds. Stand by. Contact.
Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Pit Talk, pulling pits and opinions with your host, Gunny G. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast and on all social media platforms. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. This podcast is where service members help service members, period. You don't get paid to listen. I don't get paid to talk. So let's get right into it. We got a special guest by the name of Captain Darrell Shea. Sir, shout out, say hello to the listeners.
Hey everybody, good to be here. Good to get my voice out on the airwaves.
It's actually better to have you on the airways. You know what I'm saying? You sound great.
I don't know about that. We'll see.
Well, sir, I appreciate it, Darrell. If you don't mind, all the formalities are out of the way. Thanks for coming on. We thank you for your service. I appreciate it thoroughly. And I think the listeners do as well. And we got to have you on because, you know, the podcast, the session is called 30 Days Fresh Out the Pen with the Freedom Papers, right? No pun intended. But full name, how long you served, where and why you got out, and where are you located now, and what are you doing now?
Yeah, so full name, Darrell Brett Hunter Shea. It's a mouthful. Parents wanted to give me all the names that they could. Served for just shy of 7 years. Technically, I guess you'd say my yellow footprint date, even though at OCS when I went, we did not have yellow footprints, was September 9th, 2017, and I commissioned November 17th of 2017. So, did that. Got out from Marine Corps Security Force Battalion Banger already said it, but as an 03 captain. I would say biggest reason why I got out, I knew that I had different things on the horizon that I wanted to do, and always knew that, or always felt like making the Marine Corps a career, or at least an active career, was not going to be in the cards for me. I've wanted to be an attorney since I was probably about 14, 15 years old. And, I got out so I could pursue that passion, and I'll be going to law school in the fall.
Oh my. So I know that we've joked before and you're on my retainer, even though you're not fully complete with your school, but just so you know, you're on my retainer list anyways. Where is it that you're going to school at, and what state?
So I'll be going to school at Mississippi College School of Law in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm from Mississippi. I don't know if you can tell by my accent. Got a little bit of a thick one. It's gotten a little thicker since I've been home for close to a month now. And it'll just continue to get thicker.
That's all good. I love the Southern accent. I appreciate it too, because most of them have good traits. I don't know too much about you, sir. I'm just kidding. Okay, so again, thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you sharing your experience with other service members that are transitioning out, because I think we gotta even the playing field here, because we're some of us and maybe most of us are at I think in my opinion are kind of 2 steps backwards compared to everybody else that's already in the civilian sector. And that's why I have you on to talk about it. What's the biggest con? I mean, and moving forward, what's the biggest con that you faced so far in the first couple weeks or first days of transitioning from service?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest kind of roadblock or however you want to phrase it that I've faced since I've gotten out would be really finding the time to be able to deal with the Departments of Veterans Affairs. Like the title of this podcast is 30 Days Fresh Out. I've had one appointment with VA reps since I've been out. Mostly because I had an internship and I had a job lined up. pretty much the day that I got out, or the day that I took off the uniform. So like I haven't really had the time and ability to go to my local VA rep and deal with all that. And you know, I know the longer I push it off, is the harder and the worse it'll get in the sense of making sure that everything's squared away. So I would say that would probably be the biggest roadblock that I've faced is being able to find the time, because you have civilian bosses, I have civilian bosses that have never dealt with the military. I have one coworker whose husband is a former active duty Marine, and that's it. That's the only dealing with military that they know. So like they don't understand the difficulties in dealing with the VA and getting appointments and making sure that you have the right people to talk to, because you know they want to make sure that TRICARE is covered and things like that, that you're speaking to the right civilian doctors and that kind of thing. And I would say that's probably the biggest roadblock that I've faced so far.
Let me ask you this. I know, and that's a pretty big roadblock if you considering. Do you think it's majority your fault, or is it the VA kicking the can down the road, so to speak?
Definitely, I would say more my fault than anything. I you know, the VA does get a little bit of a bad rep for how slow they are and how backlogged they are with the amount of service members they have to deal with, and like it is tough. It is tough on the people that are doing the work. But definitely I would say more so my fault than anything else. One, I'm a procrastinator by nature, and so it's hard for me to be like, all right, time to get up, time to actually do this and get that taken care of. So I'd say like 90% my fault on that one.
But one appointment though, I mean, is that just because it's your fault, or is that just because that's the availability they have?
That's another thing too. Like I said, like they're very backlogged, so they have a hard time fitting in people for appointments and getting that kind of thing. And then you have to couple it up with I work. My hours are Monday to Thursday, 09 to 1700. Monday to Thursday. And then Fridays I have off, but I have online classes in the morning that I have to be available for. So really the only time during the week that I have available aside from lunchtime throughout the week is Friday afternoon. And so hard to find that, and hard to be able to say, hey guys, I know I've been working at this law firm for 2-3 weeks, but I need some time off so I can go get my elbow checked out or my knees checked out,
right?
Because I'm broken and I need people to pay me. So that's kind of a combination of their availability and like I said, this is not a knock on them. They're super backlogged. There's just a lot of veterans that need a lot of help, and more so like a lot more help than I need. Like I was lucky, never saw combat, never did anything like that. I just, did my time and got a little broken while I was in. So combination of me being a procrastinator and their availability to set up an appointment for a time that works well for me while I'm still in kind of like the green phase of a new job. Yeah,
that makes sense. Well, hopefully, you got better path down the road. Vice a nice dirt road that you're on right now. Kind of, dirt. You know what a dirt road means, but for lack of better English, but it sounds like if you could, you probably should have done it while you were on active duty, in terms of making appointments and doing the VA thing and trying to transition out. I think that's one thing that if you're listening, it sounds like, based off of Darrell's experience, you probably should have transitioned. If you're transitioning out of the service, do your VA stuff before you get out. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, and I will say I'm a little bit of an outlier compared to a lot of people in the sense that, you know, my job that I'm doing is a skill bridge job.
Mm.
And and we didn't realize, nobody knew, I didn't even know that my skill bridge was going to get approved until 10, 15 days before it actually like took effect. Like I started skill bridge May the 6th was my first day at the law firm. I think it got approved like April 16th, 17th ish. Like, so a very short time turnaround where uh, I would have to be dealing with different VA doctors that would have been in the Pacific Northwest as opposed to the VA in Mississippi. So it was one of those things where I had the time and the ability to do it while I was back in the Pacific Northwest, but I was in such a kind of a holding phase that we didn't know what was going on, that
Mm.
we didn't want to set up those appointments in the Pacific Northwest just for them to not happen and me be in Mississippi, or vice versa, me set them up in Mississippi and then Skill Bridge not get approved. And now I'm stuck in the Pacific Northwest for a couple more months, and I still don't have the time and the ability to get those appointments set up. So I'm a little bit of an outlier. I'm a little different than most in that sense, in that regard. So I would say that take my experience with a little bit of a grain of salt, just because I was in a really weird transitional state.
I mean, I would agree, but then I would offer you this, Darrell. It sounds like if you're listening, it sounds like if you're transitioning from service to civilian sector, it sounds like you need to give yourself an ample amount of time, and your leadership should understand what they're getting themselves into, and in terms of appointments and availability and things of that nature. I think that we should offer the service member a little bit more time than just, hey, go at lunch. That's when you have availability, or we have meetings and this, that, and the other that preclude you from going to a VA appointment or making a schedule an appointment. I think that if you had ample amount of time before you transitioned there, I think that you could have done some appointments here in Silverdale. I think because you said Marine Corps Security Force Bangor Battalion, and I heard the VA is pretty good here, so maybe initiate the process and then kind of transition yourself to Mississippi.
Yeah.
I think that would have been the best approach. I'm not saying that you did it the wrong way. I think that together as a collective, I think we could have done a better job in terms of your situation. And I think that, I appreciate you offering the insight, and truly, because now we can take that and say, look, okay, skill bridge is it's a privilege, it's a request, but maybe we should really consider of who's getting out, and then we should present the question, like, okay, who's doing skill bridge, so that way we know when to approve or when to, when we should expect the package. That way you can properly transition out of the service. I think as a collective, it's a big deal. So thank you for that. It sounds like you're back in Mississippi, back at home, so your access is going to get thicker. So there's obviously some pros with your transition. What's the biggest, tangible pro, so to speak, in terms of transition from military service back to civilian, back to your home?
Yeah, and I would offer this in the sense of, like, not everywhere is the same, but for me the biggest pro that I found is I do have a pretty good net of a veteran community around me. Not so much at work, but just around. Like I've already gotten myself involved with some of the veterans associations around here. It really helps out that my brother-in-law, who was also a former active duty Marine, is here, and he's been able to kind of help me with that transition and help me, kind of be I went from, I was just a dumb frat guy coming out of Ole Miss, went straight into the military. So I really haven't had the ability to utilize any kind of actual civilian life, if that makes sense.
It does. But that's kind of a good thing. It's kind of you kind of getting your feet wet, so to speak. You're not fully
Yeah.
cut from the neck down. You know what I mean? It sounds like you have a good network. You have people that transition prior to you, and that's what this podcast is all about. Darrell, it's like service members helping service members, right? So you have a former active duty Marine. Hey, thank you for your service. And now he's sharing his experience with you. Hey, this is the do's and don'ts. This is what you should be doing, and it's making the transition easier. And that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of a good thing. A network of veterans around you. It's awesome.
Yeah, and I would definitely say that would probably be the biggest pro is just uh, would be that net that I had, kind of that safety net to. It's hard to be, I would say, especially like in the law office that I work at, I want to drop the F-bomb every 5 words when I'm talking, but I've got to remember I'm slowly teaching myself that I have to be able to, hey, maybe cool it with the Marine language.
Oh boy, I'll tell you what, that's going to be a hard mold to break. I'll tell you that. That's funny. Don't get in trouble.
I'm doing my best not to. So far I've been able to hold my tongue. In court, that's the hardest one. When we're in court, is really the toughest one.
Because you're passionate about something, and then this dirtbag is coming in front of you, or scenario is coming in front of you. You want to you're a dirtbag. You should get NJP'd, kind of thing.
100%, 100%.
That's awesome. Hey, well, Darrell, that's a good pro. And if you're listening, kind of network, not so to speak, but root yourself in veterans groups around you, because that's the biggest pro that Darrell's got going for him right now, and it's helping him transition, and that's awesome, because that's we talk about the 22 a day service members, and a lot of the time, and the majority of the time, it's after service that this is occurring, not during, right? And so I think that if we are to help each other out, this is a good way to do it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. What's the biggest, Darrell, what's the biggest takeaway you got from military service that you can apply to the civilian sector and your civilian job now, or,
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaway, or the biggest thing that has kind of helped me with that would be, it's weird to think about it this way. Is like, I work with civilians that haven't dealt with a lot of military experience and don't have any kind of military people around them. Just when I get handed a task by my boss, usually it's like the literal only thing on my mind. I do that. My boss gives me a task. I do that task. 20, 30 minutes max is normally what any kind of task that they'll give me usually lasts or takes. And I've noticed, and they've told me this before, they're a little surprised at like the quick turnaround they get. And I think it's more so because in the civilian world, it's easier to be able to just say like, okay, well, here's your task, just have it for me done by the end of the day. And then like they're able to walk around the office and talk with each other, get around the water cooler, that kind of thing, and just kind of be free and easy about it, just so long as they have it done by the end of the day. Well, for me, being in the military, it's, hey, Lieutenant, hey, Captain, this needs to be done. Roger that, sir. Roger that, ma'am. We'll get it done. And then it's done promptly, quickly, swiftly, however you want to describe it. And so I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that has helped me, in the sense that how the Marine Corps is very task oriented, and how you're able to be given a task, say, okay, got it, I will complete this task, complete said task, and that be it. Instead of, get up, walk around, scroll through your phone, get on Facebook a little bit, a little bit of Twitter, whatever you want to do, and then just kind of nitpick at it throughout the day.
Interesting. That kind of propels you forward as an employee, if you ask me, and that is a big takeaway. If you're listening, that is a big adaptability initiative, right? Initiative, and thinking outside the box, thinking outside the normal parameters of, hey, here's a task, or normally it gets done by the end of the day. For us, it's like, okay, what's the next one? Give me the next one. Give me 5 tasks so that I can give you all these 5 tasks by the end of the day, because that's how long it takes me, right? So to speak, generally speaking, and that's awesome. And it sounds like it propels you as a civilian employee. So that's a good takeaway. And I would say, Darrell, in my experience working with you, and then we'll share that here at the end of the show. That's pretty much what it is, man. It's just task done, and we're mission oriented. I think we're maybe even, so to speak, not even task oriented. We're mission oriented. That's who we are, and we have to complete the mission. And the safety and welfare of Marines around us is paramount. But it's also at the same time coming with us, and the outcome is the same. We got to complete the mission. This is the mission / task, and that's just who we are as Marines, and maybe even service members. Period. So that's awesome, Darrell. What's I mentioned earlier, and I always talk to service members transitioning and retired, whatever the case may be. And that's one thing they miss is camaraderie and the brotherhood, sisterhoods, so to speak. And I got to ask you, what's the one thing that you miss from wearing the uniform?
Yeah, and I hate to be the guy that's going to continue the trend there, but it's going to be that. I can't tell you how often I go to chow at my civilian job, and I'm going by myself, and I go to either a Mexican restaurant or Cracker Barrel or the cafe down the street, and walk down there, and I'm sitting there by myself. I'll turn on my phone, turn on a baseball game or something, and watch that while I eat. When it used to be myself and Captain Hayes and Captain Rice every now and then, a couple of the other Navy officers. We would all get together and be like, all right, now, hey, we're going to chow. You want to go? It's definitely probably the biggest thing I miss is being able to go to chow with some of my buddies, and the camaraderie behind that, and being able to just smoke and joke in the office while we're doing our jobs and everything. But I hate to be the guy that continues that trend, but it 100% is the one thing I miss the most is being able to be around the friends I made.
That's crazy, because that's a consistent thing, the brotherhood, the camaraderie. We lose, and it kind of rolls over into a purpose. But although you do have a purpose, day-to-day purpose for you, Darrell, I think that overall speaking, it affects the purpose of an individual. Is that the same thing with you? Is that what you're facing here, or is that not the case?
Yeah, you have to, I guess, when you talk about purpose, like what is my purpose in the sense of of the civilian job? Well, the purpose of the civilian job is for me to make sure that I'm on the right track for law school, and that I'm on the right track to be able to graduate and become an actual full-time attorney to do that job. So does it really affect the purpose? Not necessarily. It's more so the fact that, hey, say I'm having a rough day about midway through the day. Well, at least I've got somebody to complain to when I'm in uniform, and somebody that knows what I'm going through, that has embraced that suck along with me. When I'm by myself up here, down here, I guess, because I'm in the South. When I'm by myself, I don't really have anyone other than a couple of my close friends that I can text and be like, hey man, today's beating me in the ground. So how it aligns with the purpose, not really, but the ability to keep pushing and feel better while I'm pushing forward definitely is affected like that.
That makes sense. I do appreciate that honesty, and I would say, Darrell, and I'm not trying to get a clout here or anything like that, but I would say that if you need anything, you got my number and you let me know. Because again, you said a key sentence, a key phrase that you said, only so many know what you were in the suck with and who was in with you, and only so many people know, right? That you can call and vent to and have a shoulder to lean on. And I'm not saying you need to cry or anything, but if you do,
Yeah.
you got my number. But
Yeah.
don't think that you're alone. And I think that's where service members struggle is, they're going through some struggles, transitioning, pain, some things that are hitting them with real things that real life is hitting them with. That's painful, and it's not necessarily affecting the purpose, but it definitely hinders you from getting to that outcome, so to speak, if that makes sense. And I think that you're not alone, and if you need anything, let me know. And I think that if you're listening, you're not alone, right? You have us to lean on, because we know what you're going through, and just make the phone call, and partially myself too, buddy check here and there, and make sure your mental mind is good. And you'll be getting buddy checks here, periodically, 30, 60, 90 days. But yeah, I thank you for that, Darrell. I think that kind of touches my next point. In transition, you talked about, procrastinating, and it's probably going to answer my question, but what's one piece of information that you could, or what's one thing that you could have done differently in terms of transitioning from uniform to civilian a little bit better in the first, couple days, couple weeks, couple months?
Yeah, I won't harp on it too much because we've kind of already talked about it. But just, I thought I was well prepared, and I was, fairly well prepared. It was in all intents and purposes a pretty smooth transition, but still, it could have been smoother. It can always be smoother. You can always be more prepared. You'll never be as prepared as you think you are. There will always be hiccups throughout your transition, and that's something that I would say just make sure you're more amendable when it comes to your transition. Make sure you're able to roll with the punches a little better, and you're not like, no, this is the plan. There's no deviating from it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Prepare yourself. Everybody has an exit strategy. You have to exfil eventually, and you eventually came sooner than others. But anyways, so don't procrastinate is what Darrell's saying.
Yep.
I talk about the 22 a lot, and I talk about service members helping service members, period. And I think you're in the same boat with me in terms of providing some insight in terms of adversity, mental resilience, mental adversity, and then being resilient through that adversity, in terms of transitioning, because a lot of the time it happens after service, not during service. What's one thing that you can provide the listeners or service members that are transitioning from the uniform to civilian sector, and, tool for the toolbox, so to speak, in terms of mental adversity and being resilient through that?
Yeah. So I would anyways make sure, for me anyways, and something that's really helped me out a lot, especially with being around service members and being able to stay in contact with service members even after I've gotten out. A lot of the contacts I make are still with people that were in the service, and they're still in the service, is be a good dude. And I know it might sound stupid, it might sound goofy, and it's something that I always told my guys when they were new and joined my platoon. I was like, I have two rules. I was like, show up on time and in the right uniform, and number two, be a good dude. If you're a good dude, good things happen to you, and if good things aren't happening to you, people around you will know you're a good dude and will make sure that they can help you out in whichever way possible. And not to brag on myself, and not to say that, like, hey, I'm the best guy ever, but like, I always felt like I always looked out for the guy to my left and right, and I always looked out for the Marines under me, and I always wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, and that their voices were heard, and they were being fought for in the meetings that they weren't allowed to be in. And I feel like being able to do that and being that kind of person has opened the door for me in the civilian world, in the sense of, I know I have contacts in different places, and I know I have the ability to if something's going on in this sector, I feel like I could use a plug in a certain sector in the civilian world. Like, oh, well, I remember so and so. Me and him were pretty good buddies back in Camp Pendleton, or me and her were pretty good buddies up in the Pacific Northwest. That kind of thing. It's just always be a good dude. Be a good person, because you never know that one, you want to be a good person because it's the right thing to do, and two, you want to be a good person because you never know, like, where that person might pop up down the road in your future, and how they might be able to help you, and how they might be able to assist you, and how you even could help assist them, and make it an even better transition for yourself. That's the one piece I would leave with.
That's good, Darrell. I think that you reap what you sow, or some people say karma, right? Some people say other things,
Yep.
and I would agree with you. I'd say that being a good dudette, right? We got to leave. Dude was in a general term, but I understand what you're saying. We got to be because you never know when that person might come across your bridge again, and you had to cross that bridge, and then you were being disrespectful, or uptight, or something with something up your arse, right? And then you encounter that person, and now they're your boss. Oh, what a small world! What a small world,
Yeah.
right? And not saying that you should walk on eggshells with everybody, but I'm saying if treating them right is hard for you, then maybe you should consider what you're doing as a person, right? Because you just treat others how you want to be treated. And that's part of the golden rule. Just be a good dude, do that, and it's going to serve you in the long run, not in the short. Maybe not in the short term because it's all feel good mushy. But I agree with you, man. If you're listening and you're transitioning and you think it's going to be rough, well, it is going to be rough. But if you were a good dude, a good person, and you treat others how you want to be treated, whenever you need that person or whenever you need that network or cross that bridge for that certain connection, it's easy to ask for a favor, because that's what I'm doing now. I mean, I call people up and I'm like, hey, bro, you remember blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, dog, we were in the suck, whatever the case may be. And then that's how you build common ground, kind of catch up real quick, and then get right to the meat and potatoes and be like, yeah, I got you, dog. Let me call them up or call them up, right? So
definitely.
that's good. That's good gouge for the toolbox. Darrell, what's one? Where can they reach you at if they want to know more about you, what you're going through, and if maybe they like what you're saying and they reach out to you for some more help? Where can they reach you at?
Yeah. So I'm on X, formerly known as Twitter, I guess, and Instagram. You follow me, both of the same handles. Brett Shea Runs. I used to be a cross country runner. That's why that's in there. And also, I can also post out my personal email later. I can send it to you, or you have my personal email. You can push it out. And I'm assuming you have a link for this or something.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so you can 100% put my personal email out there. I'm more than happy to talk with anyone that wants to take a legal route, kind of how the route I'm going from transitioning to law school and possibly back. I have a couple buddies that did that route. I'm not going back. I'm just going into the active reserve, or not active reserves, but select reserves. So yeah, reach out to me anyway through there, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions, do whatever's necessary to help anybody get along where they need to be going.
Hey, thanks, Darrell. I appreciate that offer. And ladies and gentlemen, it'll be in the link in the bio and on all social media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Pit Talk, Pulling Pits and Opinions with your host, Gunny G. Follow, like, subscribe everywhere you get your podcast, and on all social media platforms where service members, period. Let me know how I'm doing. Any criticism is good criticism. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Darrell Shea, Captain, formerly known as Captain, still known as Captain. And ladies and gentlemen, we out. Listener, you expression advice.